All right. Welcome to another episode of Misfit Social Podcast.
Hard thinking.
Hard thinking.
On hard issues.
Hard issues.
Oh, dear Lord.
Oh, dear
I'm
Lord.
leaving now.
She's leaving now. Our special guest for this pod is Heather Hardin, a good friend of mine, my wife's best friend.
Welcome.
And she
Welcome, Heather.
is
nice
an
say.
entrepreneur. And we want to talk to her about what it's like to be an entrepreneur, female entrepreneur in today's society, and a society that is pushing a lot of different challenges, pushing up against inflation. Your particular sector is in an area that has faced inflation. But in Madisonville, you're not necessarily from this area. So give us a little bit of background. Where's Heather Hardin from? And how did you end up in Madisonville? And then how did we'll talk about some entrepreneurial things once we
Always Kentucky.
get to know you a little better.
I got to word this well because, so I'm from the Chicagoland area, south of Chicago, in Indiana, pretty much on the line. I'm from Portage.
Oh.
And Portage, it appears it feels like a small town, but I went to high school. We had like 4,000 students in my high school. So it was a lot of population in a smaller area. But
Is that what is Portage would be then? Southeast of the Chicago
southeast
metro
of
or
Chicago.
something? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. How far from Gary?
Just about
Who's Gary?
5
Just
miles.
kidding.
There's probably some RVs made not far from there, huh?
Yeah.
Gary,
Yeah.
Indiana is like famously
Gary, Indiana
depressed,
is
isn't like it's the ghost town from the auto industry.
it's pretty rough.
Was Portage similar?
Portage was not.
Okay.
Portage,
Why?
just a whole different working class. Portage was Portage was blue collar, but Gary was
Dark blue
I want to
collar.
put it lightly.
Dark blue collar.
Yeah. There's a lot of homelessness in Gary.
Oh,
There's
wow.
a lot of the rule of thumb when you're going through Gary is you don't stop at a stop sign. You just keep going. Because if
Wow, I
you
hadn't heard
stop,
that.
you have no business there really.
Yeah.
And if you stop, you're gonna have some traffic coming your way.
What were the streets like? No, I was just kidding. I derailed this last.
Was this pre?
street.
Was this pre or post Jackson family?
Hey, Cliff, the grand interrupter
Grand
has
interrupter,
graduated
yes,
to the
yes.
grand derailer.
What's
Yes.
what was the street budget in Portage? No, just kidding.
Oh
Go
God.
Yeah, no.
We're
let's
not
go.
talking about
I'm sure we
streets.
can get Eddie to find it.
We actually had our side, so we lived on a county line. So Portage was Porter County and Lake Station, Gary. Lake Station used to be called East Gary. So you're literally right on the line. I lived about 5 miles from the border of Gary. So we always went to eat in Gary because they had the good food. They had the good fish and shrimp and, little dives. But,
Quite a journey though, to grow up there to end up here. What's that all about?
okay. So, lived there my whole life. I really always thought I would just end up in Chicago. That's my favorite city. I would have moved into a skyrise, no problem. But as time progressed, I met my husband who, was my youth pastor.
One of those missionary dating deals. Yeah.
I didn't know if we were going to get there or not.
So-
I had hopes. I had hopes.
Yeah.
Eddie Hardin, this podcast is for you, brother.
But,
He was laying hands on no.
Right. And so I was 14 and he was like almost 20 when he came. Oh, there was nothing. I was in love with him.
Hold on just a minute. Not when you got married.
Not when I got
We
married.
need to clarify that.
Not when I got married. No.
When you met.
Yes. So we met. He came there and became our youth pastor when I was 14. I instantly I wanted to be with Eddie Hardin from the day I met him. And he would always say, Heather, you're too young. You're too young. It's not going to work. Eventually he ended up getting married and, I
Broke your
left
heart.
our church It
quit.
sent me on a very big spiral. It really did
Really?
affect my life.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I went through a few years of really bad decision making, and
Way to go, Eddie.
yeah,
Way to
Good
go.
job.
all your fault. But I then got married. I had made the decision that I was just gonna get married to the next person I dated because I was mad. He made me furious, and I just thought, oh, you think you're good. Now I was 18 and stupid. So
So when he got married, by that time you were 18.
I was 18. It was the day, I think I graduated high school the next day.
Okay.
So it was bad. It was bad.
Okay.
And, but the Lord changed my heart. I ended up, when I got married, instantly something shifted in me. I think as a female, something happens when you get married and you think, okay, I got to play this role. And so I did. And the Lord dealt with me quickly. The man that I married was, he was a drug addict. And his mother was our praise and worship leader, and she was awesome, but he and I were just not made for each other. And the Lord just dealt with me really quickly, and I got myself back into church, got myself around the right people. Eventually, that led to divorce. We just weren't compatible in any way. But during that time, the Lord changed my heart towards my now husband, Eddie. He was married, and his wife ended up becoming our praise and worship leader, and they were still heavily involved in the church. His family was heavily involved, and I was born and raised there. I didn't have another place that I felt like I was going to go. So I just felt like the Lord changed my heart. I did her hair. I did his wife's hair. I did his child's hair. I did her mother's hair, her dad. Yeah. It just completely restored a real, love as my pastor, because he ended up being our assistant pastor for several years. And then after my divorce, I don't know, I just kind of was a little lost for a while, but I was single, and I moved back in with my parents. My sister was going through a bad time. It was just a few years of just a lot of, changes. And then it wasn't long after that, I would say it was a couple years after my divorce, Eddie had went through a pretty rough divorce. And it was a really weird time. And so for about 3 years, we didn't have anything to do with each other. It was too odd. You're in the church and people know I have a history of loving this man, right, in a different way. So there was a lot that transpired through the course of a couple years. Eventually, we did get together, and eventually I married the one that I wanted in the first place. So.
What a story.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it.
What was your
but
career doing all during this time from post high school? What were you doing to make money?
I did hair. Hair has and still has been a saving grace to me. It's always been there for me, and it's always been cash in hand.
Yes, she is.
Every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
She keeps it looking good.
Well, is there anything you can do for me? It's too
well,
far
you
gone.
could shave it a little shorter. That's about all you can do.
That's all I can do.
They do make these tape-on ones
Oh,
now.
no. Look good in
I
all
just
of
gotta
those.
own it. I gotta own work.
Hey, so side note about helping that situation.
Yes.
Was recently in Chicago, and our driver there had implants. And he had it done in Turkey, and I guess they took it out of the sides of his head and put it on top, and it was growing, but that brother's hairline across through here, it looked like you laid a plumb line down. I mean, that baby was straight as you could get it.
It's too perfect. Yeah.
It looked like cornrows when
But
I
he
see
had-
it. It's like,
But I mean, it looked good. I mean, I wouldn't have noticed a straight line if he hadn't kind of said that about the
No.
transplant.
Yeah.
But once he did,
I'm just owning it.
I would.
Fortunately, my wife is cool with it.
Yeah.
She's told me she would.
best advice ever was, as you lose it, just go shorter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I used to, well, it was a long time ago, but I had the ability to run it back, run it long, and then it got so thin you was just seeing wispy through it, and I had a good friend tell me, he's like, bro,
Give it up.
just surrender. So
You didn't do the part in the back and bring it forward. I've seen
no, it
people
was
do
just
that.
I started buzzing it at that point.
You could grow your sideburns, pull it up.
Yeah. I'm trying to compensate with facial hair now.
My husband, his hair is like that, but he was in a gas station one day and he saw what he thought was somebody else in one of the TVs, the monitors, and he was like, "Man, that guy should just go ahead and shave his head for all that
He was
is
looking at
left."
himself.
And he was like, "Oh my God, it's me."
That's me.
So he got home and he's like, "Shave it.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it.
I had a similar. So with
So
hair,
for all the men out there,
Just shave
just
your
own
head."
it.
yeah, guys, come on,
Just
man.
Go for it.
Go for it.
And listen, all this growing it long and throwing, we all can tell. We can
yeah.
see it.
Hidden
We
bobby
see it.
pins,
Don't do it.
hair color.
Yeah.
It's just not for men.
Yeah, I'm just saying the weird like comb
go
over
for it.
stuff.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I'd pay good money to see you grow a comb over.
I might do it just for fun and then just shave it.
I'll
right.
throw
What's
some
the
money to
dollar
the
amount?
RV
What's the
fund.
dollar amount?
If you
Okay, what's the haircut? Like, how long are we going? Because if it's coming from over here by your ear
Yeah, I just
all
gotta-
the way over
Are
to
we
the
talking
other ear,
thousands or hundreds here?
that's what we used to
I'm
call
saying
fried,
I'm
dyed,
saying-
and laid to the
I'm
side.
saying thousands.
Thousands. That could be like a
I don't
fundraiser.
know.
So
Down payment on
I
something.
Yeah.
will do fundraiser.
So I'm saying 2,500 for you to grow it and comb it all the way over. But
we're
what's
talking RV fun now. We're gonna need to
but like imagine if Heather was bald right here and that all this on the sides was just grown out and long. I would double it for you to grow it like that.
Cookie the Clown.
Yeah,
Like
like Cookie the
Clown.
like a
Nothing up
grown
here.
out cul-de-sac Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talking about the grown out cul-de-sac
Yeah.
Jack?
Yeah, but you got
The
to get
Kentucky waterfall.
Yeah, it's got to get down past your ears. But that's $5,000 to the RV fund. Deanne, if you're watching this,
We have to negotiate
it's a
that
real
little
thing.
bit.
All right, so let's get back to
Well,
Heather
I was trying
doing
to
hair.
ask a real question
A real
before
question.
we
and
got into my side.
I was laying down a real challenge.
My-
So it's
my-
real
we
money.
did get back to the road conversation.
My side
Yeah, we got back on
Cul-de-sac.
roads again.
Sick of talking
Cul-de-sacs.
about roads. I wanted to ask you,
Cul-de-sacs.
Heather, and thank you for being here. Is there anything about hair that gives you joy because you're sculpting, crafting, helping people's look? I was just curious, as an entrepreneur and as a hairdresser or whatever the term would be exactly for that you would be most comfortable with. Is there what
Hairstyles.
brought you joy in that besides the income? Because that's obvious.
I just always felt the need to help people look better than they, or help them
Than they think they do.
Yes. Yeah. It's the truth.
Yes. Yeah.
You're a part of them
Because-
feeling better about themselves,
yeah.
right?
And I started that when I was a kid.
Wow.
I would do people's hair. They were like in my neighborhood and they'd be like, I have a dance to go to. And back then you didn't go to the hair salon for every single thing, like they do now. I mean, it's just very accessible. But back then I was in people's houses, charging $1 to do their curls. But it was because I didn't want them to go to their little things and their hair be stringy.
Yeah.
So what happened was, and I think what really started was, so I was in 6th grade and I was, your 6th grade is like, you have 5th grade where you're in elementary school and then 6th grade is that middle school stage. Well, I came out of the womb bougie, but my mother was not. My mother had zero skill in with beauty, or she didn't wear makeup. She always had a perm. She just didn't, that wasn't a thing for her. And so I was in 6th grade and she was curling my hair in the bathroom. And I remember thinking, I look like an old lady. And it really bothered me. And when I went to school, it was my picture day. And I got those pictures back and I was like, Mom, I look like an old woman. And I just think from that point on, I was like, that will never happen again. And then I liked it and I was good at it.
Yeah.
So I knew from then on that I was going to do hair. And I have been doing hair ever since.
And are you still doing it now too?
Yes.
In the midst of your other entrepreneurial.
Yeah. And it doesn't bring me as much joy as it once did.
Okay.
It's still very creative and I still have days where I'm like, okay, it was worth like somebody coming in and they've had a really, really bad couple of weeks and they come in and they leave and they feel good. But you've also talked them through it. I've had to pray with people. I've walked them through divorce. I've walked them, through losing a baby or having a baby. I mean,
What an
more than
incredible
hair,
kingdom. That
Yeah,
is a kingdom
it's
spot.
different.
Sitting in your chair. And I'm sure you have really long time clients too who are Heather does my hair.
Yeah.
So it's almost hard for you to get away from it, I would think, too.
Extremely hard.
Yeah. Because you do a good job for me, it's like you are mine, and
Yeah.
you can never retire.
Yeah.
You can never have a.
That's the truth. Andrea always says, "You're going to have to do my hair in the nursing home." I'm like, "Well, what do you think I'm going to be doing?"
Right.
Hey, wait, there was a little gap between Portage, right? Portage and Madisonville.
Yeah.
What happened
Yeah.
there?
How'd you get here?
And are you, how long you've been in Madisonville?
I've now been
And
in
what
Madisonville.
roads did you take?
Yeah, what roads?
Well,
did you
there's
take?
one road, and it's 41 straight down.
What were
from
the
my house
condition
here.
of those roads? Is
Yeah.
what this guy wants. No,
He
please
wants
tell
to
us.
call
How
NDOT.
did you get here? That's a recurring joke that we keep going to. How did you get to Madisonville?
So after Eddie and I got married, during his divorce, he pulled out of ministry. One of his ex-wife's requirements was she wanted him in the secular world. She was sick of being broke because ministry doesn't always, provide a great life, and she didn't like that. And it's understandable. I don't at all, take offense to that for her. She needed whatever she needed. But so he went into HVAC. Well, at that time, he had never been in HVAC. So you start down at the bottom. And it was very bad, like terrible money. And so when we got married so quickly that we didn't have a place to live. I mean, we decided on Thursday night to get married, and my pastor's wife had us married Friday night, literally within 24 hours. And so within about a year and a half.
What was the rush?
I didn't have a rush. My pastor's wife was a matchmaker, and she just decided, why don't you guys just get married? We had dated for a year. Well, we dated for 7 months. We broke up for a short time. And
so the Eddie dream wasn't what you thought for a minute.
Well, yeah, it was really bad.
I love this Eddie. Sorry, buddy. I'm gonna dig around a
sorry,
little bit.
you can. His ex-wife, he has a son, and his ex-wife was kind of like, she saw us together a lot, and she kind of got a little jealous, and she wanted him back, and that was fine. I mean, it was terrible for me, but he had to go back, and his words were, I have to stand before God, and I have to say I've done everything I can to save that. So that's what he did, and he went back, and it didn't work. But when he finally when they had the talk that it wasn't going to work, he told her that he was moving on, and she knew that it would be with me, and because we had such a history. And so when he told her that, it was 8 days later we were married.
Okay. So how long did you stay in the area?
We stayed there for about a year and a half. We just couldn't financially do it. I mean, I made good money with hair, but so that was 20 years ago, and rent there was $1,100 a month, which is kind of what we pay here.
Yeah, today. Yeah.
So, and his income was so small, and you're paying maintenance, and you're paying childcare, and you're paying child support, and there's nothing left. So his stepdad owned Magic Coal at one point, and he had sold it, and he was getting back in the coal business, and Eddie knew that he could come get a job in the coal mines. And so really it was almost like we felt forced to. We just didn't really have options, and there was money
So you
here.
know nobody here when you moved here?
His mom and stepdad.
Yep.
I knew no one. Oops.
Yeah.
I was 29 years old when we moved here. I found out I was pregnant 3 weeks after we moved here, and was told I couldn't have children. So it was a very strange time for me. So we moved here, had nothing, had nothing. We had clothes, and moved in with his mom and stepdad. We were both out of divorces that were financially destructive. I mean, we were having to,
This is still
Get our
emotional
way out.
for you, isn't it? When you're recounting this,
yeah, there's a lot to it.
and I can feel
Yeah.
you kind of fighting
Yeah.
back a little bit.
I have some grandbabies that are involved, so there's a lot of story there that, little Eddie has 3 kids, and so if he hears this, he knows we have a good relationship.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't have to worry about that. But we went through a lot, and when we got here, we had nothing. And I found out I was pregnant, and I thought, dear God, I'm away from all of my family. anybody I'd ever known. Moved to Madisonville, Kentucky.
BFE.
Oh my God. When I moved here, they couldn't understand me and I couldn't understand them.
Yeah.
I would order a water with a lime and they would have no clue. They would be like, I don't know what a lime is. And my father-in-law was like, Heather, it's a lime. I was like, oh, okay.
Like a dime and a lemon.
Yeah. So I knew
Water.
I didn't understand that it's a totally different culture. As a matter of fact, I'm very high strung. Very high strung. Naturally, I am. My shoulders and my neck are like, my chin and my shoulders are I'm always high strung. I'm very in control. And when I moved here, everything was slow and no one was in a hurry. And I was just like, what in the world? I didn't understand it. But 20 years in, I have a child who was raised here.
Does he say lamb?
I have a girl. I have Abby,
she-
and Miss Abby does say lime and pie and
Lime. Pie.
yeah. So, but
Water.
she's 20 and she's pregnant now, and she's getting ready to have a
Oh, congrats.
my first birth grandchild.
Great.
Yeah, and in the middle of all of that, we've been here 20 years. We've adopted 2 kids.
Oh.
We had one in high school, and we got one that was in middle school. So there's been a lot that's went on in our life since
That's
we've been
awesome.
here. It was definitely an ordained thing. I believe that it was, the Lord placed us here. It was strategic. We got into ministry right away, and I just started doing hair. And when you do hair, you meet a lot of people real fast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now your entrepreneurial
Yeah,
prowess goes beyond hair, or is it just in that industry?
it goes beyond hair.
Okay. So what else do you do?
I do interior design.
Okay. Is that the lion's share of your efforts now?
Now it is.
Yeah. Is that the fun for you? Fun stuff?
Yeah.
The most fun?
And I think it's the fun in it is like the project managing side of it. It's not even so much the creative.
part. Mhm.
It's a lot of there's a lot of moving parts.
Coordination of things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the creative side, but my favorite part of it is managing it all. I guess because I am so high strung, I can handle that. And it just keeps me I've got a lot of balls in the air, and I can't let any of them fall. So for me, it's just a constant movement, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So staying in the vein of entrepreneur,
Mhm.
when you first started cutting my hair, you were in a booth somewhere, right? Or had you started your business at that point?
No, you came to me when I had House of Style. So
Okay.
I had just opened a few months.
Okay. So let's back up to that
Okay.
for just a little bit.
Okay.
So what year was that?
I opened House of Style in 2015.
2015.
Mhm.
All right. So let's give some context for the listener of the size and scope of community that we're in.
Okay.
So we're about 18,000 people in the city limits, probably 40,000-ish people in the county. Median income is somewhere around $40,000 per person, per household. Tip to tip on the town, 4 miles. And so when people say, hey, I got to go all the way across town to get that,
Oh, my Lord.
they've only lived here,
I know.
right? And we're all laughing
Versus
because
all the
he's
way across
Seattle, he's
Chicago.
Dallas,
Yeah.
you were in Chicago.
Yeah.
I've been around.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I got time. It's all the way across town.
hmm
So in 2015, you embarked. Was that your first entrepreneurial venture
No.
or not?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I had a little sandwich shop before that
Ah.
in a coffee shop. Do you remember Acoustic Coffee and Tea?
Oh my God.
I had a little
All right,
sandwich shop
so
in there.
I'm going to be on the record. No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was just a little bitty place on
Nobody else
Kentucky.
remembered it. That's why she's
That's
not
right.
doing it anymore.
That's right. It wasn't there. The
how
coffee
that
shop
goes.
was there for a while, but I wasn't an owner of that. I just came in and served lunch
Yeah.
through the coffee shop.
What was the coffee shop that was there?
Acoustic Coffee and Tea.
It was Acoustic Coffee.
Mhm.
Okay, hold on just a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute.
Remember, Lionel was from Louisiana.
Yes, that. So, okay, but in a different building. But were you cutting hair there or not?
Mm-mm.
Just the sandwich shop. That's it.
Just the sandwich shop.
Okay. So that was your first entrepreneurial deal.
I always did hair, but I never like owned anything.
Okay.
But I did the sandwich shop just because I thought, why not?
And how'd it go?
And it lasted 3 months,
And
and I was
not.
like, I'm out.
And
Okay.
This is over.
So startups, being a part of a business owner, whether you're buying something, startup, trying to rescue something, it's a big deal, and it's not easy.
Sure.
The majority of businesses in today's world fail. So did you really just say, hey, this seems like a good idea? I mean, was it really that simple?
Yes, it was really that simple.
On the
and
hair
it was
side now,
really
you're
that
talking-
stupid.
on the coffee and tea thing.
Yeah, the little sandwich. It was really it was very dumb. Like, it was one of those decisions
Well,
let's
say ignorant. Like,
there you go. It was
maybe you
ignorant.
were unaware of some things, some risks.
Highly unaware.
Okay.
I really didn't have a clue. I just knew I loved to cook and I loved to do all that. And I was like, oh, why not? We didn't have any place here that was just like a quick like sandwich shop that wasn't fast food or.
So you didn't look at his books. You didn't say, hey, you didn't really count the cost of.
No.
Just start making sandwiches.
Please.
Yeah.
Let's
Sandwiches.
Go. Let's go. So did that. I'm getting hives right now thinking about that.
Well.
So how did that not too detailed, not
Sure.
asking to be personal
No,
or in your
you're good.
business, but how did that impact you financially?
At the time, it wasn't too terrible because we were financially good other than the business, so it really didn't affect us too much. I mean, it was like maybe a couple $1,000s in taxes. I mean,
Okay.
it wasn't
Okay.
was
manageable.
detrimental. Yes,
And that was in what
completely.
year?
That was in, gosh, Affy was so probably 2007.
Okay. So from 2007 to 2015, obviously you grow and mature as a person, as a spouse, as a mother, as in your career, and you decide you want to do this crazy thing again and get back into being an entrepreneur. So how was your approach different when you started House of Style? Is that correct?
Yes, House
when
of
you
Style.
started House of Style versus the coffee place.
I knew nothing about food, and I knew a lot about hair, and I knew a lot about the business of hair. I knew what it cost me to run my chair. I knew what the financials were. I knew how to handle people behind the chair. I'd been in it my whole adult life, and so I knew the business of hair. I knew it. Like, I could take you there now, and I know the business of hair.
So it's safe to say you have mastered the craft.
At that point, I felt like,
Yeah.
yes.
What made you pick sandwiches over hair at that moment when you started the sandwich shop instead of
God.
what you already? Just curious on that. That
I could not even tell you.
wow.
Weed.
It was.
She's like, oh yeah, that
Dang.
sounds like a good idea.
Sandwiches.
I
Eat a sandwich.
I don't know what like the thought was. I mean, I really don't. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't pinpoint one thing other than I was like, oh, that would be cool.
So what was the risk that you were kind of like, okay, now I'm going to pony up and I'm going to have my own business, right? And so what were all the risks? What were the things you were thinking, oh, I got to have a place. It's going to cost me so much. I need so many chairs.
Yeah.
And so what did you bite off?
With the House of Style. Yep.
So my husband came to me and he was like, I had saved up some money from just doing hair at home. I just did hair in my house. I had a little room. I did pretty well at home. And my husband, I told him, I said, I'm really sick of people coming in and out of my house. I'd really like to just go behind. I'd always wanted to own a salon. When we were in beauty school, they had us run a business during school. It was one of our projects. And we had to run a successful salon with seed money. So on paper, we had to run that. And so my husband came to me, and a lot of people, my husband's very like nonchalant, easygoing, but he came to me and he was like, I think it's time. and I'm going to give you some seed money. And because I had saved up a little, very little, but we had went into, I had saved up some money to buy a Coach purse. It was like $700. It was like one of their higher end purses. And I'd saved up the money, and we were at Green Hills and we were shopping, and we went in the store, and Eddie's like, you going to get your purse? And I'm like, I want my salon more than I want that purse. And he was like, here's you some money. And so he said, you're ready. So I took the seed money he gave me. I found a building pretty quickly. I knew that I wanted to be, are we allowed to say brands? Can we say brands? Okay. Sure. I knew I wanted to be an Aveda salon. I loved the products, and it was a salon. I had worked years ago in an Aveda salon. And so I knew all the things that I wanted. And so I just started praying about it. I found a place. Everything was great. I had nobody to work there. And I just started going. I went in, I painted it all myself. I did all the work myself. My husband never stepped foot in the door until I needed some electrical work done.
Wow.
And I just went in, I started ordering. And during that time, I could truly say, that sounds super spiritual, but during that time, the Lord brought me in people. I had one girl that went to school with Aveda and lived in Elizabethtown and owned her own salon and wanted to move back to Madisonville where her family was, but wanted a good place to work. Now, I'm not saying that there are no good places to work here. That is not what I'm saying. I just wanted something different.
Yeah.
And so I wanted you to walk in and feel like you have come to a very nice, high-end place. And
a little bit of escape from
Madisonville.
And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's how we feel at the Crowded House.
Yeah.
I mean, part of pampering yourself
Right.
is a little bit of escapism at times.
Yeah.
So nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I went all in. I had blow dryers that we pulled down from the ceiling. Like, there were just some little things that were just like, I just wanted that elevation more than what we already had.
Neck and shoulder.
Oh yeah, head, neck, and shoulder massage, hand massage. That's
Every
why
time
he
you got a
came.
haircut.
That's why he started. It wasn't because I could cut good hair. It was because he was getting the head, neck, and
exactly.
Falling
shoulder.
asleep in the
He's like, you had me at massage.
Yeah.
Like, bro, it's a haircut. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Your haircut, and it's just like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, user.
Yeah, the first time they put that mint on my fingers, I'm like, yeah, this is not for guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you were creating moments
It's
in
a little
excess
sissy.
of what people
Oh my
might
gosh.
already expect from a haircut.
Right.
Which is, that's adding value. It's adding tremendous value to an experience with you.
That was our tagline.
Yeah.
You were coming in for an experience.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a haircut.
That's awesome.
Yep, that was our tagline. And we were very successful. I didn't know how to handle that. I wasn't the business side.
How so? Yeah, keep going, but I want to really zero in on that.
Okay.
How that affected you, the success.
Like you were
we don't
surprised.
we don't talk about that enough, in that we all want to be successful, but not often do we have enough voices warning us, and not warning in a bad way, but preparing us for the burden of success.
Right.
And yeah, keep going with your story. I want to.
So at that point, like, I didn't have people around other than my father-in-law, which is a whole different story. It's a whole different thing. Other than him, I didn't have anyone speaking into me or my husband about financial responsibility.
Excellent.
So I had no clue as to what business-wise what I was doing. I mean, I would talk to the manager of my bank. I had a lot of questions, but I didn't know the right questions to ask to get the answers that I needed. And, but even at that, when I opened our first year in this town, I made $252,000 we brought in.
That was your revenue?
That was our revenue.
Top line revenue.
That was our revenue. And for this town
That's
in 1 year in a hair salon,
Incredible.
How many people were having to work to make that happen?
I had
How many chairs?
I had 8 stylists. I had 6 chairs. I had 8 stylists and 4 receptionists.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's slamming.
and it was good. I mean, from day one.
Yeah.
From day one, it was great. I had a good crew. I had very talented girls. we did well. I had, the first 6 months was just like, we killed it. I mean, we killed it in every way. We had a great open house at Christmas. I mean, at Christmas, we were booked solid. There wasn't a day that didn't go by that you were just like, okay, I got to get in front of this, you know, and it was fun and it was great until it wasn't.
Yep.
During that time, my husband's family coal mining business closed. Mm. And even though we brought in $252,000, I poured in $100,000 into that business.
Mm. Into the other business.
Into House of Style.
So
I was pouring money.
You did 250, but you're subsidizing the cash flow. So you did 250, but you're also putting in 100.
I'm putting in money.
Okay.
We brought in 250 and I'm putting in money. And the reason why I was putting in money was because, again, I didn't really know how to handle what was coming in and what was going out. Not at that.
So sorry to cut you off, but was that 100, were you losing, or was that also in an additional investment, or a little bit of both?
Both.
Okay.
We weren't really losing.
Upgrading. I mean, where did
the because through Aveda, like my first order with Aveda, when I walked through with the Aveda rep, she was like, "How much would you like to spend on your first order?" And I'm like, "Oh, $7,000." And she just laughed, and she was like, "Your first order is going to be $22,000." And I handed it to her. And I thought that was the dumbest thing. I should have scaled that back, because I started with, I already had seed money and I had used all that, but I went ahead and I financed that first order through them.
Sell you on that, or you
it was like you had to.
Okay.
In order to, because there was parameters. I had 6 chairs. I had 2 massage there. There were certain things you had to buy in order to buy in. It was a buy-in. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. But even at that, we recovered slowly from that retail purchase. But I would put in money for new equipment because we were growing so quickly. I didn't have room to put my color, and I didn't have, there was so much that we had to do. So I spent a lot of money that I didn't need to. I don't regret any of it. My business, I was open 2 years to the day. I think 14 days. Within 14 days of 2 years, I was open. And it was the single most educational experience of my entire life, and it was the single most devastating experience of my life. It was pure hell.
Yeah.
It was hell.
I've lived that.
Yeah. And it was in a small town. And instead of people just hey, I hate that for you, it was, well, I could have told you that was going to happen when you charged $50 for a haircut.
Everybody's Nostradamus on the backside.
We would have told you that we tried that already. I had a couple tell me we had one already, and we would have told you. And I'm like,
so what do you mean, that the business model was too far past where Madisonville was?
Yeah.
But we're slammed. Why wouldn't it continue?
I was paying my receptionist probably a little too much.
Yeah.
For what we were bringing in. They were good. And I felt obligated to do that. Yeah. So there were things that I felt obligated to do. I also, and you know this, but you feel a sense of responsibility for their families.
Like the stylists and all this.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're paying them to work for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
it was hard. It was hard. I'm glad I did it. I hate the way that it ended. But it's now I feel like, okay, I got a lot of stuff in order now. All the things I didn't know then, I do know now.
So what did you do? You shut it down, went to another location and start over?
I just shut it down, and I'll tell you how bad it was. I shut it down. I had 3 weeks to decide, and I just called each stylist individually. And I was a mess. I just called them. And I was just, blowing my nose and just, I'm so sorry. But I wanted to call them individually and tell them. I didn't want to just,
walk away.
Yeah. So I was like, please do not feel loyal to me. If you find a place tomorrow, take your stuff and go. Do not stay.
Did you know at that time that you were going to restart? Or were you just thinking this is just a wash and I'm out of here and I don't know what's next?
I'm out.
Yeah.
And so I went for 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks time from the time I said I'm closing to the moment I walked out the door was 2 weeks time. And each girl, would slowly go off to wherever they were going to go. And I was telling them, I'm like, you're not going to offend me. You have no obligation to me. I have to make this decision. I'm not going to make it if we go.
And was
anymore.
the equipment yours still? So you could take that with you?
I sold it. You sold it. I made a call to a guy in Nashville and he bought it all, and I was like, done. I'm done. I'm washing my hands of it. I'm out. But I still had clients and I still had to do hair because I at that point needed the money. I had $7,000 in gift cards that were out.
Oh.
7.
Yeah.
And I went through each and every single one of those. And to tell you, so the scripture in the Bible that says, don't let your good be spoken evil of. And I had a lot of people that were talking.
Yes, I'm familiar with that verse.
I had a lot of people that were talking terrible things about me, and they didn't know me. I had old men sitting in chairs behind me that would say, I don't know who that girl from Chicago was, but she sure thought she was going to do something here. I heard it with my own ears.
Oh, wow.
And so, when I went through all those gift cards and seen them, I went back to like a year and a half on those cards, and I called each and every person. And I spent the next 6 months every week what I could afford. My husband's business had just shut down. We went
my goodness.
Nothing. We went to no income whatsoever. And so it was fight or flight, which I feel like I've been in fight or flight since I was a kid. So I knew exactly what to do. So I just go into that mode. And so I went through, and for the next 6 months, I worked at a salon that I was embarrassed to be at. I hated it. My people knew I hated it there, but I had nowhere to go because a lot of the girls that worked for me went to different places and they didn't want to be working with me because their clients were told things that weren't true. So therefore they were uncomfortable with me in the room. And so, I just went to a shop. I called a girl that goes to church with me, and I called her and I was honest with her. If there's anything about me, I'm honest.
Here's what happened.
Yes, I'm not gonna, sugarcoat anything. And I called her. I said, "Look, this isn't ideal, but I got to have a place to go on Monday. It's Saturday at 3:00, and there's not a shop open."
And so you're honoring all these gift cards for people at that shop.
No, I literally paid these people 1 week at a time.
Oh, you paid them.
Yeah.
Every week. Every week. If I had $25 left, I paid them $25. If I had $75 left,
bless your heart,
I paid them. And I did that until December of 2017. And because I was not going to let people say, well, you didn't do what was right. Because I for darn sure I'm going to do what's right. It may not be easy, and it was terrible, but I did it. Put me into bankruptcy. I mean, it was bad. It was a very, very tough lesson to learn.
Where'd your husband's work go at that point?
He started doing HVAC again, full circle, but he was doing it on his own. He didn't go to work for somebody right away. So he kind of was a maintenance man for a few people in town. And my husband's very likable. Everybody likes Hetty.
So that started working for you.
And he just, but we survived. We survived.
So at this stage in your story, what would you say the value of failure or the value of hard times would be for someone who's moving on into an entrepreneurial journey or just a life journey?
Or maybe having to close one.
Or maybe they're in a season right now where and all of us are going to experience that, but maybe someone's in a tough spot. What would you say? What's the value of that on this side of those difficulties in your life?
I wanted to write a book called Failure is the Fertilizer for Success.
All right. Failure is the fertilizer.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. That's trademark.
Absolutely. And it's anointed. It's anointed because it's alliterative. It's got failure and fertilizer. So that's all it needs right
He's
there.
already took it. That's going to be
blessed.
Sorry.
You hear that on YouTube.
And I'll tell people I'm like, the Lord gave that to me.
That's right.
Yeah.
He spoke through somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's detrimental to success. I think you need failure in order to succeed. I think you need to have those lessons because like even today coming here, like I'm praying on the way here. I'm like, Lord, I do not know what I'm doing, but you're going to have to just show me what to do. I don't know what this is going to look like. I'm scared to death, but I started doing things that I was afraid of because of failure. Because I thought I failed at things I knew. So why not do things I don't know? And, so to get back to what got me here now, like into design, is that where we were going?
Yeah. We want to hear about what you got going now. Yeah.
So I moved into interior design during COVID, which is makes no sense.
Yeah. It seems like a difficult time to move into that space.
Why not? Yeah. I had went to school. I found out, so I was getting tired of hair. I'm 30 years in. I mean, there's only so much you can take.
Yeah.
People can really
it wears you out.
Can take you down.
Let me tell you about pastoring.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Been there. My husband was been there. But I went through a season during COVID where I was like, I got to make some decisions here. I mean, I'm getting older and I can't do hair forever. It has been a lifeline for me. Like I said, every day it's cash money. I can survive with it. And if I ever had to, I could go back to it. I know right now if I said, hey, Cliff, you want me to start doing your hair again? He'd be like, when you coming over? But I know I could go back to it. But so during COVID, right before COVID, I started school online for interior design. I was like, man, we'll just try it. This was not a planned thing. There was no effort. I just was like, well, let's just see. It's online. I'm not going to go drive to Nashville to go to school, but let's just see how this pans out. And while I was in the middle of school, the pandemic hit. And so I was like, oh, I've got all this time. I'm going to kill it. I'm just going to get school done. And I did. I finished it. And I finished it. And when I did, at the end of that, I had a friend call me and say, I heard you were in design school. I had told very little people, so I had no idea. And I said, yeah. And she said, would you come do my kitchen? And I was like, I have no experience other than my own home. And I go, well, I mean, I could try. I just finished school, but that doesn't mean I know anything. And so I go to her house and she's like, what do you think you'll charge? And I will give you dollar amounts because I don't care. I was like, I don't know, $500.
To do a whole kitchen?
I'd never done it. I didn't know. And I'm like, I'm not experienced. So for me to tell you, oh, I'm going to charge you $6,000 to do this, I don't know what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
And I had to have that to graduate school. So I was like, okay. She's like, we're not paying you $500 to do our kitchen. At least she was, nice about it. And she's like, at least let's, start off at like $1,500 or whatever. And I'm like, okay. So, I started there and I really just didn't think it was going to turn into anything. I really didn't. I really just thought this will be my last project. And then she called back and she was like, you think you could come do this? You think you could come do that? And I'm like, okay, I'm busy with her, one person. And I get done with that and I just start getting calls. And, I don't want to air out anybody's business, but I went from a $500 job to a 5-figure job within the course of 4 years.
Just one singular job being 5
one single job.
Incredible.
Which I took 2 this year that were that, and one of them was more than my adjusted gross income the year before. So I was like, yeah, I think I can do this.
Yeah, this works.
This is working.
I've had money and I've not had money. I like having money.
I do
it
too.
Works better.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just scaled back from hair. I had a health scare in the middle of all that too. So I just kind of started scaling back, and now I'm 1 day a week.
Wow.
Not to just brush over the health scare, but right now you're good, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're healthy as a horse.
Well, sure. Like medication is helping with that, but yeah, for sure.
So tell us a little bit about what your interior design business is called.
Okay.
And if we're interested in getting some help, where do we go for that?
Okay. So my business is called Ferris Lane. That's the road I live on. And I had talked to some advisors about what I should name my business, because originally it was just Heather Hardin Designs. And they said, don't put your name on it, and don't put it in any type of business. Like, don't put that it's design. Just come up with a name. Well, for Ferris Lane, that was where I really started that dreaming of doing that. And so I was like, okay, I like Ferris Lane. It's kind of cool. Nobody knows really what it is. And so I just changed it to Ferris Lane. And originally it was Heather Hardin Designs Functionally Beautiful Spaces, because I wanted people to know that I wasn't just making it pretty. I wanted it to work for my client. So I do design work. I do floor planning, 3D design through an architectural program. I'm by no means an architect, but I can pull up a design in 3D so that my clients can see it. You can contact me on Instagram. And it just feels so weird to say that, but it's Ferris Lane. It's just Ferris_Lane.
Awesome.
On Instagram, I'm terrible with social media. Terrible. I actually need to hire somebody to do that
LinkedIn?
for me. I'm not on LinkedIn. I don't even.
Oh, you are terrible.
I don't know anything. I'm terrible at it.
Eddie?
I'm a creative.
I know. I was looking back there.
Eddie's taking notes back there. She's not on LinkedIn.
Eddie,
Got another client. Eddie.
I'm a creative. So when you're creative, those skills just don't. They're just not
admin
there.
stuff
Yes.
fall off.
Oh, I hate it. Yeah. So I'm on there. I'm on Facebook. The same thing. Ferris_Lane, and of course, just by phone. I mean, it's really by mouth. Everybody
Sure.
contacts me. I've not had to reach out and ask for a job. I would never, ever go to somebody and say, hey, let me do that. Ever. I would never do it. And so anybody that has, reached out to me, of course, I try to gauge the client, if it's going to work or not, if my personality is going to work with them.
What's your favorite space? What's
To
the favorite
redesign?
space? Yeah. Do you have a favorite kind of space?
I'd say I love kitchens.
Mhm.
I love redoing a kitchen. Yeah. I think there's so many options now. I mean, and budget. And I like working in budgets that I didn't think I would, but sometimes it's easier to have a budget to work with. And like, if somebody doesn't give me a budget, then I have to just like kind of use common sense with that person. Like, okay, some people don't want to tell you. Like a lot of times I've found out clients are afraid to tell you. They're afraid to tell you what their budget is because they're either embarrassed by it or they don't want to sound,
Too bougie or whatever.
they don't want to sound too bougie, and they don't want to sound like they don't know what they're talking about. So like if somebody's like, well, I'm going to redo my living room, but my budget's $500. Well, they don't want to tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they did, I would say, I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah, it's not enough.
But
I'm not your person.
yeah.
So I want to just deviate here real quick as we're kind of getting up against some time. What is your favorite product to put in your hands when you're styling hair?
I don't like any product in my hands.
Yeah.
I don't like. I'm a texture person. He's making fun of me.
So when I first started getting my hair cut by Heather, my hair was much shorter than it is now, and so it required a little bit of product. And she has to get this specific mixture right, or it gags you,
I want to
right?
vomit. I just can't do it.
I was like, how did you get in a business where you have to use all these creams and different stuff all over your hands? And she's like, get it off, get it off, get it
I
off.
can't stand it. I can deal with wax, like a waxy consistency, but if it's like lotions, like heavy lotions, I can't stand it. I mean, I was the kid, when I was getting a stocking for Christmas and they'd always give you lotion and spray. Oh God. I'd be like, somebody trade me. I can't stand it.
I always love to be like, could you condition my hair, please?
That's just me.
I hate it.
She'd be pumping it out and being like, oh.
He doesn't even want his hair conditioned, but he wants to torment you.
Oh, I hate it. I hated it so bad. It was terrible.
All right. So Misfit Social, we're big on misfits here.
Okay.
So tell us somebody either in your life, could be dead, alive, you knew them, didn't know them, but you're like, this person is a misfit and they're a misfit that I respect because of blank. And who is that person?
He is John Paul. I think it's I cannot say his last name. He's part of the John Paul Mitchell. He's the co-owner of John Paul Mitchell, and he went from being homeless.
Is it DeJoria?
DeJoria.
Yeah.
He went from being homeless to running this empire of Paul Mitchell, and he also started Patron.
Praise
Spirits.
be. Yes. Tequila.
He started the tequila business, and he's
And his daughter
very
drives a funny car.
successful.
NHRA.
Ooh.
Yeah. Alexa.
Still around? Is he
Alexis
still around?
or Alexa
He's
DeJoria.
still around.
I've probably seen her race then.
Yeah.
I realize that.
I really like him. I like his story. He's very good, like business mind. When I would go to, the beauty industry, when we would go to the big conferences and stuff, he was amazing. And he would be my misfit.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say one thing as we wrap it up. I'm just going to do a little plug for you.
Okay.
I've done a lot of building projects in my career. Paul, probably since we've known each other for 20 years, I feel like either I'm in a building project or you're in a building project.
Seems like it.
But somewhere along the way, we've always got something going on. And the older I have gotten, I have found dealing with people incredibly more frustrating. So right now we're doing a remodel on the Tunco offices downtown. It's about $500,000 to $700,000
building one?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's about $500,000 to $700,000 budget. And it has been the most enjoyable experience. And we're doing some major reno. Like,
are you leaving the upstairs as is and just doing
the old
bottom?
Upstairs as is? But we're like, this building was built in the early 1900s. And get this, like this was a surprise that she found when we took the drywall down. It's not subway tile. It looks like subway tile, but it's brick, bro. It's brick all the way through and around the steel columns. The brick is actually curved.
Nice.
And so like we've had some
restore some of that.
Yeah, all of it. We went from just kind of putting lipstick on the drywall to where we're like all that's coming out. We did all new windows.
And that's front to the back. Is it like that?
The front 2/3.
Okay.
But we're also putting a gym in.
Okay.
So, and she's overseeing all of it. And I mean,
what's the function of that bottom floor going to be?
So the function of the bottom floor is going to be all the Tunco administrative offices in the main section, but where like that lean-to was put on, it's about 4,000 square feet. Where the gym is, or is it less?
It's probably close to that because the whole thing's about 8,000.
So we're putting in a gym that'll be like 3 times larger than what we have at Tunco now. And that'll be for all of our employees, but we're also going to do a gym membership, executives gym membership. It's not going to be cheap, but limited. We're going to have sauna, cold plunge, hot tubs.
Does that mean everybody's picked up from the Tunco site and coming back to the
You got it.
Coke?
Yeah. Yeah. But super kudos to Heather on that, doing a great job. It has been well worth the investment, and you have made my life a lot easier, and I'm grateful for that.
Thank you.
So
awesome.
Cliff's pretty picky, so
Hey.
that's high marks.
Listen,
He's a jerk to work for.
I
too.
love working for him.
Really?
Yes. And I think because he's a straight shooter.
Yeah.
And it doesn't bother me. I
Right.
cannot
He
stand
will
if
tell you.
somebody.
You hear that?
He will tell you.
I can't stand it if somebody's not a straight shooter.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
can't.
so
I was going to say
So
jerk,
you
but I
did
guess
say jerk. You said
did.
he's a jerk to work
He
for.
is
It
a
actually
jerk to
came
work
out.
Well,
and she said, "I'm great."
Yeah.
I say it in the
difference
most
is
benevolent.
that Cliff was found by Jesus somewhere in the middle there, and it's affected it.
All right. So for the cursor of the group, for the great interrupter,
and derailer,
and derailer.
What am I?
The mayor of Wonderville,
the mayor of Wonderville,
and the entrepreneur of the century.
Yes.
This has been another episode of Misfit Social. Let's get out of here. Thank you.
That's a wrap.
Let's go.